cybersecurity, it's a huge opportunity. You know, the market segment itself is growing really fast. It has a lot of momentum because, as you might know, over the last couple of quarters, there's been some very high-profile, breaches with WannaCry and other things. That it's really been a wake-up call for many customers that they need to do something about cybersecurity. And for Sophos specifically, that has really been a good environment to be in, because the solutions that we have in Sophos is playing very well to customers that are nervous about ransomware, for example. And our solutions that we have built is very easy for partners to deploy with customers. So in Asia Pacific, we 100% sell via partners. We never sell anything direct. And we design our products in many cases for partners so they easily can sell it to the customer base. And that has helped us a lot over the last couple of years in Asia Pacific, because in places like India as well, a lot of the business is really done via partners because of the geographical requirement of India being such a large place. So the way that we get out to a very broad customer base is via the partners, with products that are easy for customers to deploy or partners to deploy on behalf of their customers. So I would say that the opportunity in Asia is huge, and we're only really scratching the surface of getting out to customers that needs our products, as well as the cyber crime. The bad guys are not slowing down. So it's always a race from a vendor point of view like Sophos, is to enhance our products, build better and better security products for our customers. And I foresee that will continue, because one of the things that are happening underlying is everybody's moving to the digital enterprise. Talk about digital transformation. So more or less many customers today live in the digital worlds, and if that gets interrupted by cybercrime, a lot of companies will get to a complete standstill. And the importance of cybersecurity has risen tremendously. I don't know if you followed over the last couple of weeks, there was a big breach in a company in the US called Equifax. And to the extent where the CEO had to step down, it's really becoming a very high agenda item in most companies, with board of directors and risk and governance, is to look about cybersecurity. Because as more companies become more digital enterprises, the business risk associated with being a digital enterprise is around cybercrime. So the agenda around cybersecurity has risen a lot. So we have a lot of demands from our customer base and from partners in delivering solutions. So we're very bullish about both the segment itself, but also the offerings we have in Sophos is really well targeted to what customer needs today.
Okay.
I've read obviously about the Indian government and their aspiration to become a digital society. And there's a lot of initiatives in that direction, both at the government level as well as enterprise level. And I think everybody, being it government entities, being it customers, and being individual, should consider themselves at risk, because it's the best way to start thinking about cybersecurity. Is just like in the physical world, there's a risk of being in the physical world. When you take your car and you drive, there's always a risk. And I think people would be well off if they think the same way. I think there's been a number of years where the internet was taking off, and people look at the opportunity, but you don't really look about that when you go through a kind of a revolution going into the digital world, they don't really think about creating a safe infrastructure at the same time. So that typically comes a bit later, when you get some wake-up calls that things are going wrong. You see companies that maybe go bankrupt because they didn't protect themselves. So I think it's a good advice to everybody to start thinking they are vulnerable. And the reality is that everybody are vulnerable. I don't know about a single segment in the customer space, a government, that has not been breached at some point in time. So it is fairly common. And when you talk about what people can do to protect themselves better, I think there's certain things that are very common. I often talk about the 3 Ps. First of all, it's people. It's awareness. And coming back to how should people look at this, I think need to consider that everybody that works in a company has a responsibility for the security of the company. When you leave the office in the evening, somebody has to lock the door on the physical security, but you also need to think about, as an employee, often, for example, ransomware, the most common way to get ransom where in cybercrime it's actually via employees. You get an email with an attachment or a link, and people are fooled to either log in via that link or open that attachment. And so I think the first defense is really people to be awareness of that risk. So giving awareness and education to people around that is important. The other thing that are relatively easy, but not always done to the extent it should be, it's patching software. You know, a lot of companies are running software, and give you an example on, everybody has a mobile phone today, a smartphone. If you have an iPhone like I have, every day almost, they say you need to update an application, right? And I think that's something companies need to do as well. If you're running software, you need to make sure you patch the software to the latest version, because in the latest version, a number of these security risks are taken care of by the vendors. So the second P I often talk about is patching. You need to make sure you're patched up to the latest elements of the software, and that's a good advice for most to follow. And the third one is protection. There's obviously a number of products and technologies that help protect against cybercrime. You know, Sophos, we do a whole suite of those technologies and products. So that's, I think, is the third thing companies need to have is a cybersecurity strategy for how they protect themselves. So if people start focusing, building a strategy around the people strategy, how they patch the software environments, and then they protect themselves through the appropriate products, I think people can be a pretty safe place. But we also know from experience that some customers are not there yet, and they just don't get around to it, and they become very easy victims, and that could have very dire consequences, even to the discontinuation of a company. Yeah, I think we see, first of all, cybercrime, unfortunately, is getting relatively well structured and well organized. You know, you can go, and it's not that difficult, go onto the dark web, as it's often called, where it's almost an organized crime, where you can go into certain websites on the dark web, and you would, with the help of what's available there, you can go and attack companies. And there are people that will do it on your behalf, and they'll take, let's say, 30% of what you get in ransom. You know, you might know most ransomware attacks is around bitcoins, asked to pay back in bitcoins to get your files back. And some of those people that are on these dark web websites will say, I'll do it all for you, I'll manage it for you, and I take a cut of 30%. So it's getting very organized, and it's getting relatively easy to do. So the threat landscape from that perspective is getting more sophisticated, it's getting more pervasive and easier to do. So the bad guys are getting well organized. A lot of it, what we see today, is around either ransomware, because that's a good way for the bad guys to monetize the effort, right? They get money, so you pay to get your files back, right? So that has been really, really high growth, because it's an easy way for the bad guys to get money. On the other side, the other thing is more the traditional thing that we've seen for many, many years is hacking and stealing information. It can be industrial espionage, it can be state-based, hacking in to get information, right? So you have, those is probably 80–90% of what's happening today is around either stealing information through hacking or ransomware, where you try to monetize and sell back the information to the rightful owners. But it's getting sophisticated and well organized. So if you're in the business, as Sophos is, to help protect customers and companies against these risks, we also need to up our game, which means from a technology point of view, our technology becomes more sophisticated. You know, we're going from, in the old days, was what we call signature-based. We understand this file is bad, this file is good, and we can find the bad files. Now it's getting more sophisticated. We look at behaviors that are happening. And the latest thing is, Sophos, we bought a company that are into artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is really being able to, at a higher level, automate some of these things. And not just doing it on individual products. You protect your laptop, for example, you protect your server, you protect your firewall or your web gateway. But besides having these different products that do different things, is integrate them into a seamless security system that talks together. So a good analogy is a bit like in the physical world, if you have a company, you might have security people that walk around outside and see what's going on. You might have CCTV cameras that look as well. You might have people inside inside the building maybe looking at it. And these are different kind of security mechanisms in the physical world. In the physical world, we had for a long time where people talk together. The guy outside will have a walkie-talkie talking to the guy inside. And we're doing the same with security products. So Sophos is actually unique that we have a very broad portfolio of security products on endpoint laptops, servers, mobile products, but also on the network and the web gateway and the email. But if there's a problem happening on one product, that product will communicate to all the other products and say, I found a breach here, this is the type of breach. They'll inform the firewall. The firewall might tell the encryption tool, you withhold the encryption keys for now because we have a situation we need to clear off. And all of that now happens integrated and automated, which for a lot of customers is great because a number of customers don't have enough expertise and can't hire enough people with expertise in this area. So the more we can help automate it, and where the security system itself becomes more intelligent and interconnected, the less companies need to hire people that can do it. And especially where we, in the mid-market, where we are selling to a large extent, we also sell to larger corporate, but mid-market we sell a lot. A lot of those customers don't have people that are specialists in cybersecurity. So having a system that is intelligent and interconnected is really, really important. As well as we design our products specifically for the partners. So we built in features that the partners can use when they manage the cybersecurity on behalf of their customers. So they can look across all the customer base they have in one pane of glass, what is going on in the various different products that the customer have deployed, and be able to manage that remotely on behalf of the customer. In India we have a broad partner ecosystem because India as a geography is obviously a very, very large country. So we try to balance two things. One thing is having a partner coverage, so our customers all over India will have a partner in their proximity that they will be able to deal with. So one thing is breadth. We need to have a number of partners to cover all the different cities in India, and it's a very large country. The other thing we're working on is then the depths of the partners. It's the level of expertise the partners have. And we have a very significant investment into our partners around enablement of the partners. Because as a vendor, we understand obviously our products well, we have developed them, we understand the technology of them. So we see it as our job to train and enable partners so they in turn can deliver the best that these products can give to our customers. So we do a lot about training and enablement. We do a lot about motivation of partners as well. It could be promotion, incentives in terms of selling our products, get familiar with our products. And I said before, a lot of our products are developed. We have a design center, obviously, need to fulfill the requirement of the customer. And everybody does that. We're actually quite unique in Sophos that besides the customer design center when we develop products, we also have a partner design center. So we spend time understanding what is the requirements of our partners for them to be successful deploying our technology into customers. So a number of features that are in our products are designed specifically to make it easy for partners to deploy this technology into customers or maybe manage the technology on behalf of the customers as well. So that's very unique in the industry actually, that we have a design center to the partners. So it's a lot around the enablement, it's a lot around designing products for the partners, obviously incentives that goes around it with the partners. The coverage of the whole geography is very important. So we deal with smaller partners through a sub-distribution network that can get to the small SMB customers. We deal with more sophisticated large partners that sell into more larger customers that have a higher level of requirements. So the great thing about partnering is that we can work with a lot of partners that have different profiles that can provide a different value proposition to different types of customers, which as one company is very difficult to do. But if we work with cybersecurity specialists that are into more enterprise, we can work with those partners that can develop and deliver that value proposition. Or we work with partners that are very local into a tier 4 city somewhere in India, right, that can deliver a value proposition for those customers. So we try to have a relatively broad and diverse partner ecosystem that we work with, and to get the reach, obviously we work with distributors, we work with sub-distributors, and at the end of the day it's obviously the resellers that are facing the customers. We deal with them in different ways. They can buy and resell our products. We deal with them in a managed service way. So we have a managed service program that we're just launching in India now. So if partners, a lot of our customers don't want to buy the products, they want to pay per use or per month. So we enable that as well for some of our partners, that they can buy from us on a monthly basis based on how much they sell to their customers. So we try and optimize our business the way that partners need to do business with their customers, so we can support them in the right way. So we do it in multiple ways. We have an ongoing training efforts that we have different delivery models for. Some of it we do online. We have a very good online training capability we do with our partners. And the benefit for that with the partners is that they can train when they have time to be trained, right? They can log on and do the training. And obviously we do face-to-face training, especially where there's more hands-on, where our products and try our products out. The other thing we do on enabling partners, we're doing at the moment, we're going through an introduction of the next generation firewall, and we provide it to a number of our largest partner free units. So here's the units, play with it, get trained on it, go and show your customers and do proof of concept with customers. So in some cases, we'll provide free units as well, so the partners can feel comfortable with the products. Besides the training they will get from Sophos. And in many ways, the training we do internally, we're extending the exact same training to our partners. So the way we train people inside Sophos, we look at our partners as an extension of the company. So when we train salespeople, we take the exact same training. Sometimes actually, we have salespeople from the partner together with salespeople in Sophos doing the same training, because they all need to be able to sell the same products and the same benefits to the customers. We do the same for the technical community, so the technical consultants and pre-sales, as well as we train partners as well in the area of post-sale support. A big profit opportunity for our partners in cybersecurity is really about services. Cybersecurity today, given that a lot of customers might not have the required skill on staff, they're looking to partners to come and do certain things for them. And that could be training, to train them, to skill them up, or that could be delivery or installation, that could be having on-site residents, engineers. So all of those elements a lot of our partners are doing as well for our customers, which tend to be a good profit opportunity. So it's not just a profit opportunity for our partners to resell our products, it's also to develop services around that. And in some cases, if there's areas that don't have a service around it, they can then fall back on Sophos, and we can help them to deliver on their behalf as well. So it's a lot about the reselling from the sales point of view, the technical point of view, the support point of view, the service point of view, in supporting the partners, both to skill them up, but also to create a business model for partners by which they're successful and profitable. And we know it's relatively simple. A profitable partner is typically a happy partner, and they would like to sell more of their products, right? So it's very easy. If we can help partners to be good at what they're doing in cybersecurity and make money on it, it's going to be good for the partners, and the partners will be very happy working with Sophos. It's interesting, in cybersecurity, it's actually all customer segments. There's no customer segment as such that have avoided the cybercrime trend. So we're not so focused on the verticals. We see cybercrime going on in the government institutions, going on in FSI, going on in manufacturing, going on in retail. It's actually across the board. And most of the solutions that customers need to implement to protect themselves are typically not very related to the vertical nature of the business. They're actually relatively horizontal. It's around how do we do protection of the network? How do we protection of the periphery and the endpoints? And all customer segments have networks. All customer segments have endpoints. So cybersecurity as such is not really very different in the verticals, and they all have the risk, they all need to be protected. There are some, I would say, verticals that are maybe having, from a regulatory perspective, higher requirements. Right? If you go into government, if you go into healthcare, if you go into banking, and the reason that they might have higher requirements is they have more data that is related to privacy areas. They would have medical journals of people, right? So a hospital does have an obligation that this information is not passed out in the wider public. They will have credit card information, right? They will have some of these privacy information, which means that governments and government bodies would have stricter regulatory aspects related to some verticals, which means that they're typically the ones that would look maybe more for cybersecurity solutions because they need to live up to certain regulatory requirements set by the government. So they have a very much of a need, and they will obviously engage with companies like Sophos to help them in that area. But I wouldn't say they're necessarily more targeted for cybercrime than, I don't know, let's say retail, or let's say manufacturing that maybe don't have the same type of sensitive data, but they also get targeted by cybercrime. And a lot of those are also become digital enterprise, and if you interrupt their business, it could be, there's a lot of cost to it for companies. One thing is ransomware is obviously a cost of paying back, the money so you get your data back. But beyond that, there's operational cost of getting up and running again. There's potential legal cost you might run into because you have certain SLA requirement with your customers or vendors. There's reputational cost you might have as well. So there's a lot of direct and indirect cost associated with cybercrime that happens across all industries, also the ones that are maybe less regulated. And which is why that when we speak to customers, we do recommend that all customers need to have a cybersecurity strategy. We recommend if they're a public listed company, they'll typically, as part of the board of directors, they will have a governance and risk subcommittee. Most companies are now looking at cybersecurity as one of the biggest risks to a company in terms of business discontinuity. And we think that's a good way to do that. And I think the best way of thinking is that everybody is at risk. There's data points showing that on average it takes, I think I saw like 142 days on average to realize you're being breached. So a lot of companies have been breached today not knowing they've been breached. Because the way the company often get breached is that the bad guys get in, maybe on one computer, it's spread to other computers, and they might be dormant for multiple months. They're looking for the high sensitive data, they're looking for people that have certain positions, and they move around inside the company. And that can happen for a while, and the company would not even know it. So there's a famous saying that in cybersecurity there are two types of customers. Ones that have been breached, and ones that don't know they've been breached yet. And I think that's a good way of thinking of it. It is a high risk area, and you need to take precautions. Just like in the physical world, we would take precautions related to risk, and we need to do that in the digital world as well.